Hey guys, how you guys doing today? Welcome to ZooView. My name is Peter. I'm the educational coordinator here. I'm one of the kind of general zookeepers. This is your first time, welcome. If this is one of your many times returning, welcome again. Today we're in our museum and education building with Ryan here. Ryan is our safari tour manager. He's one of the zookeepers here, as well as he's the main guy about what we're going to talk about today, which is going to be our aquarium tank. And our aquarium, Ryan, is what, about how many gallons is in here right now?
We have a 500-gallon display tank, and underneath the refugium, that's about 125 gallons, so a little over 600 gallons total.
It's a pretty big thing here. We have a lot of different species of fish, all coming from the Amazon River Basin in South America here. We do have some species from Southeast Asia. So right off the bat, the ones that we're just going to briefly mention are going to be here the red-spotted severum. There's another type of severum. These are two different species. Severum, one's almost like a hybrid cross.
Yeah, this one was actually, sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
That lighter severum was actually a cross of the green and the red severum that we hatched out here at the tank.
So that's a little baby that was born here. We have kissing gouramis, pink kissing gouramis right there. We have two of them. They get their name because when they come, if you could kind of get an angle there, Austin, on the one eating, their lips kind of move like this. So they kind of make that like kissing face. Right there, you see a good view of that right there. They'll do that when they eat, when they come in contact with another male to try to size each other up. It's a kind of way of how they meet and greet. So the two big animals though I'm going to talk about today are going to be the silver arowana, which is this big guy up here. Silver arowanas can actually reach almost a record length of about 4 feet. Our guy here is probably about 2.5, almost 3 feet, so he still has almost a foot to go. You kind of see how big he is compared to my forearm here. And as I talk about the fish here, Ryan's kind of going to feed them separately to give them something to do while you guys watch. So silver arowanas, they really like to live up at the top of the water. And we'll get to that a little bit at the end here of why that's important here in our fish tank and in the wild. But they like to stay up top. And they're a very voracious eater. They'll eat fish, they'll eat turtles, they'll eat frogs. They're actually called water monkeys for a couple different reasons. One, they'll actually jump out of the water. They can actually jump almost 5 feet out of the water with that big mouth. And they will actually eat monkeys or small mammals that are actually living on lower branches or if they fall in by accident. So as you see Ryan feeding him there, you see that big mouth gulping. So they do come from South America in the Amazon River Basin. That big gulp. Dropped another one in. No, I didn't see that one. Don't worry, someone will get that, Ryan.
Oh, that's what we got the stingray for.
Yeah. Now, females will lay eggs, about 40 to 60 eggs. And once they hatch, males will actually take some of the babies for the first couple weeks and actually have them hidden in their mouth to protect them from predators and other things like that. Because when they're born, they're pretty small still. So fathers will actually carry them around in their mouth for about 3 weeks to protect them from anything coming in to try to harm them. And as you would imagine, a small fish like that, there's a lot of things that would want to eat you. So what are you feeding him right there, Ryan?
Today they're getting shrimp. So this is shrimp just like you can buy at the grocery store, already cooked, and they are in love with it. They've been eating this for, oh, sorry, I'll put a piece in the tank. Oh, he's hungry.
Missed that one. There you go.
The shrimp are cut up in bite-sized pieces, and they have a mixed diet right now. They're on shrimp. They also like a variety of fish, haddock, trout. We get a lot of fresh trout donations here at the park, and these guys enjoy that as well.
Very cool. Awesome. And if you didn't hear Ryan, I said he missed one, and Ryan said, "Don't worry, the stingray will get him." So now we're going to talk about our motoro stingray down here. They're also from the Amazon River Basin. They could get almost 2 feet across, so from kind of fin to fin there. They are really cool. They are in the same family as sharks and skates, they have that very kind of structure to them. They don't have bones like you and I do. They're cartilage based, which means they're very flexible. Now, stingrays are really cool because they have a lot of adaptations to help them survive. He has 2 gills on top, kind of right behind his eyes. You'll see him flutter around. Those gills suck in water, and they will blow water down because their mouth is actually underneath them. You kind of get a good view coming up the side here. You'll be able to see his mouth right there. So blow water from his gills down through his mouth into the sand, and it'll blow the sand away. And that's how they find crustaceans, different mollusks, crabs that are hiding in the sand. So it's a good way for them to find food. Ryan's going to try to get them to come up the glass a little bit. Sometimes they'll do it.
He found a piece on the bottom right now.
I think he did, yeah. So they do have gills on the underside of their belly as well that will help them filter that water. So you see that mouth right there. Now the biggest thing stingrays are known for is for that tail and that barb or spine that comes up out the back. So don't want to get my finger in there. See that piece that kind of sticking off the top? That is actually its barb. It's a lot shorter than the actual tail length. And that barb is covered with a sheath, so they don't have that barb or spine exposed all the time. It's back here. Yeah, right there. The little piece that's sticking up, that's the sheath that's covering that barb or spike. Now, that barb or spike is venomous, so stingrays are venomous. And this is actually what that barb looks like. Now, this barb is serrated as well. If you could kind of see that as it focuses in there, it is serrated. So just like a butcher knife. So this gets stuck into a predator that's trying to eat a stingray. It's really hard to get out, 1, and 2, there is venom that does come shooting through it. So it is very detrimental for a predator that would come after a stingray. Now, if you guys actually touched a stingray before at another aquarium or a zoo, you might be wondering, well, why am I not getting barbed or spiked? Well, this right here is a lot of what your fingernail is made out of. So those places will actually clip them, or they will fall out naturally, just like this one here, which is from our guy. So that's how it's safe for you guys to touch them at different aquariums and zoos. It's just like a fingernail. You just clip them down because there's no natural predators that they have to worry about at zoos or aquariums. So that's a pretty cool adaptation that these stingrays have. So that's kind of what I have with these guys. It looks like Ryan added some other things to the fish tank. So Ryan's going to kind of take it over here. Like I said, Ryan here is the main keeper of the fish tank. He helps feed the fish, also cleans it. And he mentioned about the extra tank at the bottom. So I'm going to turn it over to Ryan right now. He's going to tell you a little bit about what he does here, how he takes care of these fish tanks here at the zoo, and about the tank itself.
All right, so like I said, we have a 500-gallon show tank. And the water in this tank is cleaned constantly by the tank that's underneath. And the tank underneath is called a refugium, or a biological filter. And we use plants to do the natural hard work of cleaning some of the fish waste, some of the stuff that you can't really see out of the water, the ammonia and nitrates. And the plants will take that stuff out and filter the water so it's cleaner for the fish. It also helps to put oxygen into the water as well. The tank is set up with a gravity overflow. That means the water falls from the top tank down some pipes that are hidden and into the lower tank. It goes through a series of sponges that help take out some of the larger macronutrients or fish debris and waste. And that gets cleaned out on a weekly basis. Then the water passes over that refugium. Right now we have a lot of floating plants. That changes over time. Sometimes I'll put some planted plants of different varieties in there as well. But anything to help clear the water naturally. And it works pretty well here. As you can see, the water is pretty clear. It goes through another series of sponges and over to the pumps, which pump the water back up to the top tank and out some nozzles, and pumps at about 2,000 plus gallons an hour. We have two 1,200 gallon an hour pumps in there that are going constantly. Up here on the top, the plants you see in this tank are actually fake, if you couldn't tell. We did try some planted plants in there, some live plants, but the stingray's a little too feisty with them for anything to grow consistently. Anything large, I should say. If you notice, the logs and the back of the aquarium is coated in an algae. It's called a blackbeard algae, and I don't really bother with cleaning that off. That also kind of helps to filter the water, and it doesn't really do any harm to any of the organisms in there now. So everything kind of works as a system, just as it would in the wild. Some of the equipment I have here also for the weekly cleanings, attached to the glass on the outside is a magnet, and on the inside is a magnet with a sort of razor blade, which is used to scrape algae off of the show tank glass. So the stuff on the back of the tank we don't bother with, but the glass we see through, we like to keep that clean, and this way you can do it without even getting wet or having to go scuba diving in there. So this can actually be used to clean the outside and the inside of the tank, and between that and a little Windex on the outside, it keeps a nice clean glass. I also have a siphon in here, which we use to clean the gravel, and we use that when we do water changes. This would actually be used to suck the large debris up on the sand, which you can see on the bottom of the tank now, and that is a weekly process as well. So that takes some of the large fish waste out, and we also exchange a large quantity of water while we're doing that too. Probably about 30%. No real good way to calculate it, but we take water out of the tank and pump fresh water in, like I said, on a weekly basis. And that's essential for keeping a healthy aquarium, to have new water in large quantities at all times.
Awesome, Ryan. Thank you for that. Now we're going to switch over to you guys. If you guys have any questions for us, Ryan and I will go back and forth and go through and answer some of them for you guys.
Ryan, Brennan has a question. Is this a fresh or a saltwater tank?
That's a good question. We get that one a lot. And this is in fact a freshwater tank. That kind of throws people for a loop. As soon as they see the stingray in there, most people just assume it's a saltwater, but stingrays can in fact live in fresh water.
Tara wants to know how long they live. Any of them?
That's a good question.
So each one kind of varies per species. The arowana can live about 20 years in captivity, about 10, 15 in the wild. Is the big arowana right there. Oh, you missed it, just missed it. And then the stingray too also could live a little bit longer.
Do the fish fight?
Oh, good question. Do they fight? So this is really important, kind of what I was talking about, why the arowana is very good up top and the stingray's at the bottom. They're all special in their own niche and their own role in their environment. So if you take a snapshot of this could be what you see in the Amazon River Basin. A stingray right underneath an arowana, and Severums hanging out in the middle. So the arowana tends to stay at the top, stingrays will tend to stay at the bottom. So in the animal kingdom, you never want to have competition. Competition means you'll lose food, you can be injured, you can die, you could be weak. So with special adaptations, they live in different parts of the same water column, bottom, middle, top. And depending on where they live, it reduces that competition. Now, if a fish sees a piece of food that goes down, of course there might be a little scuffle, but the tank is big enough and they have their own spots where they don't always have to compete for food.
How did that baby fish survive?
You can answer this one.
Yeah, that fish was close to a miracle. They are free to lay eggs in this tank, which they do, but the other fish enjoy eating those eggs as well. So they'll last for a couple days. They like to lay their eggs on some of the moon rocks we have here, but the eggs usually get eaten, except for a couple that time that somehow naturally made their way floating through the water to the overflow, down the overflow, through the sponges, and into the refugium, which is actually a great spot for young fry to hatch out. And so we had about 20 fry in here for a couple weeks, and we'd feed them, but they can survive off of the extra food and waste that floats through the tank and down into there. We ended up with one that lived to adulthood, and we pulled them out of that tank and back up into the show tank.
Did you tell them what a fry is?
A fry is a baby fish. Yeah.
All
And
right.
back to the. Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
go ahead. No, you go.
Just another side note with the eggs. Actually, I don't know, Austin, if you can get a shot of the far rock underneath the tiger Oscar. There are actually eggs on that right now, which I think are just new today. I don't even remember seeing that this morning. If you're super observant, you might have noticed the tiger Oscar getting a little aggressive towards the stingray when the stingray gets near the rock. So the Oscar is nesting on her eggs right now. She'll be defensive against any animal despite their size. The stingray is much larger than her, but regardless, she will fight them off. And she just does that by using her mouth as a battering ram to, give them a little shot, tell them to, hey, back away from my eggs.
Ryan, do you have any suggestions as to how to keep a fish tank at home?
Water changes, I'd imagine, are a big downfall of a lot of home aquariums. It might look nice, or it might look completely overgrown with algae, but either way, the stuff you can't see is the stuff that's really going to harm your fish. Ammonia buildup is a huge thing, and you can completely avoid that just by doing a regular water change, about 25% or more each week.
Anything else, Jack?
I don't have
All
any
right.
more.
So we are closing our ZooView right now. So thank you guys for coming out. Hope you guys did enjoy it. It's a little different. This is our only fish tank, only fish that we do have here at the zoo. So Ryan, thank you for taking your time out to share this with us. As always, connect, protect, and change. Especially with these guys, fish and sea life is one of the big issues with them is pollution with different chemicals as well as plastic. So here at the zoo, we don't serve plastic straws to help protect our wildlife, and you guys can do a lot the same. Cut down on plastic bags, plastic straws, things like that, because those are the first things that travel into the oceans, which really affect these guys here. So thank you guys for coming out. Enjoy your weekend. It's finally some nice weather, and stay tuned for ZooView for next week. All right. Thank you guys. See you later.